recent assessment, which I feel was hastily executed, poorly justified, not that we didn't need the money to do work, but justified in terms of bids and contracts and expediency and breaking down. This recent, that it was punitive in its immediacy. And I think anybody could have anticipated that it would cause a lot of pain and suffering that now has caused us unnecessary legal costs and predictable financial and emotional stress. It also is creating a clandestine system of accounting that may be both illegal and unmanageable. So, who, besides Barney, will know the verbal agreements and where is the accounting and projection of the actual income and over what period? So, I have talked to people who have made the arrangement for $50 a month, $100 a month. This will be a 4 to 8 year span for them. So how will the homeowners be informed about this financial, I'm going to call it a debacle. And I do want people to have the opportunity to make payments. But if that had been in the original assessment offer, we wouldn't have all the legal fees or all the pain. So, as I understand the $3,000 savings, I think that we have spent many times over that amount because we didn't have professional oversight. I have attached a note from James Townsend, who is addressing the question of the bid process, and very specifically wants that after this first $1,000 payment, or the initial payment, that we should have these buildings appraised by other companies. In other words, get assessments and be very concrete. And the other one is an attachment from Lorraine Pounds, which is her family's research on a particular management company. And we hope this is helpful to the board because we want to be helpful. This is our home, it's our investment, and I don't have any ego involvement here at all. Just, it's very serious. Okay, thank you.
So does anyone on the board want to respond to some of these issues that Judy brought to our attention, including the note from James Townsend and the email from the Pounds family?
You know, we understand that you have a lot on the plate tonight. So
no, I understand.
We'd like to ask that that the board members take time to read these and respond.
There's something you don't know about, and I'm going to talk about it in any minute, which will address a good part of the substance of what you just requested.
Okay.
So it may, and my timeline is 1/6 years.
Okay.
So hold that thought for just a second. But I want to see if anybody else on the board wants to respond to any of this. I don't want it to just be me. No?
So we're trying to utilize professional resources whenever possible. That's something. Sure. So let me stand somewhere where I can actually speak better. So when we do take bids or what have you, we try and utilize professionals when we can. Absolutely. Certainly, the roof endeavor has been one of those cases. And we're absolutely want to capture anyone else in the community that has that previous experience anywhere. Right? I mean, we're not looking to do this on the cheap, right? We want to do this right. We want to do it correctly, and so if that means we need to go contact a professional to do this properly. Because personally, I feel like we're in this situation because we haven't utilized our resources properly, and I want to get us out of this situation.
What resources? Money?
No, I mean, yes, sure, money is a portion of that, right? So the siding is a good example of things that we need to pursue and continue to do so. And the roofing, right? We have roofs that are about 25 years old. That's well beyond its lifetime, even with regular maintenance that wasn't done. So
you're talking about individual bidding and contracting, and I'm talking about somebody who looks at the whole big picture.
But that may be part of the professional resources. As was mentioned, Barney had talked about bringing someone to speak on the current state of affairs, who is a professional manager. And so we could always seek that professional advice in whatever manner that happens to be.
I've got something, that's the thing. we
So,
were talking
right,
about.
so- I mean,
My
that's-
concern is that you don't know what questions need to be asked.
Well,
And a
and-
professional overall manager would look at the big picture.
Right, and I think
Okay,
that'll be spoken to, but I can tell you that in other cases, say roofs or grounds, those are things we're certainly pursuing.
good. Thank you.
Yeah. So anybody else? Dan? Alan? No? No? Okay, well, thanks, Jude. I mean, I agree with, virtually everything I just read and what you guys put together. There are some things that I think are a product of the abruptness of the assessment, the shock of the assessment, and the many questions that have come to mind as a result of people who hadn't been paying close attention until they got the letter announcing that there was this very large assessment coming, and then they wanted to know all sorts of things that they didn't know. I can assure you that there's nothing clandestine about our accounting and our bookkeeping,
Well,
and I will address that
okay,
later,
okay,
because there are some legal issues
yes.
which the widespread presumption that because you're owners, you should be able to see every single dollar, the actual check, the copy of the check, may not meet legal standards, and we're checking on that. But I have some things I'm going to say later
But that's
in the
not what
president's report.
what I'm referring to is that at present, as I understand it and as was said at the meeting, only Barney would know what arrangements had been made because it was kind of under the table. I'm not referring to wanting to see checks,
Arrangements.
the payments for the assessments.
Okay, that's not under the table. I explained that at the end of this meeting, at the assessment. Let me repeat myself so that you because there's clearly a misunderstanding. There is nothing under the table at all about this. However, there is a legal problem. If we were to make a formal written agreement with all of you to whatever payment plan you were comfortable with, we couldn't legally require you to pay it.
Well,
And
then
so, the only way that we can handle the fact that there are people who can't pay is to treat it just the way we treat all bad debts connected with dues that are assessed and unpaid. And there's nothing clandestine about it. In fact, it's been my view and the view of people who come to the board requesting that we keep this practice in place. This is a way that we try to make accommodations to the particular situations of individual homeowners rather than just take people to court. However, so do you understand
I'm
what I
still-
just said?
Well,
What about this sounds to you like under the table, only Barney knows, because not only Barney does this, he reports every month to us about every arrangement he makes involving dues that are overdue, and that includes assessment dues that are overdue.
Listen to her. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to speak, Jason, but you're here to listen to the speaker. You're lecturing.
Well, I
You're
may
going
be lecturing,
over
but
and over and over, and I want you to stop.
well, that's an
and
interesting
listen.
opinion, but can you get to the point? What is it that she has said that I've missed?
Go ahead, Judy.
Well, Barney told me that, and people have said that you can't even write on your checks what it's for. That sounds clandestine. That sounds,
Answer.
Okay, so what you can write on your check is assessment or assessment payment. You cannot write per Barney, one of 41 payments. You can write assessment or assessment payment. And these checks are going to their own assessment account. And my understanding, and this is also still in process, is people will get a statement. They will see the assessment and they will see how much they've paid and they'll see their balance of it.
okay.
So
So
this-
the answer is somebody besides Barney, you say it's treated like a bad debt, so the board does have access to,
We see all of it.
okay, that was my question.
You know, and also when I started here, one of the first things I did was take many of the managerial and bookkeeping responsibilities that were in that office, and I gave them to the board. And I said, the board needs the fiduciary here. I don't sign checks except payroll. And 2 board members are check signers, and the treasurer checks everything that the bookkeeper does.
Thank you, that's helpful.
So it really is, I mean, that's why I wasn't sure that I had explained this adequately in the assessment meeting. Maybe it didn't make it clear, and maybe, I am a professor, so if I fall into a lecturing style, it's because when questions are raised and people are missing the point, my job there is to try to zero in on what's been missed, but forgive my style.
We have people who really want to speak tonight, we're running out of time, you have scheduled somebody to come in at 7:30.
Yeah,
Well, you're
okay.
taking up a lot of time, so let's move on.
Well, okay, I'm gonna try to keep the pace of this, but is everyone now clear about why it is that we can't make explicit written statements that suggest an alternative payment plan other than the 3 that were offered?
Yes, thank you.
Great, wonderful. All right. So now, so then, the person at 3345, number 203.
Okay, here, Woody?
That's
Oh,
fine.
Woody. Oh, great.
I'm Woody. There's 4 things I want to talk to you about. They're all very important. A few days ago, if you read your email and got it, I sent you a copy of a brand new law enacted effective January 1, has to do with complete and straightforward disclosure of financial affairs, and it's greatly expanded over our program. In other words, our bylaws and declarations. It supersedes them. It replaces them with respect to disclosure. Now, this is a state law. It supersedes ours, which means we live by the state laws now. It's known as Colorado House Bill 12-1237, effective January 1. It came about because the state and the legislators who passed this came to the conclusion that there were far too many abuses by management and boards of directors and other people in homeowners associations, that they weren't even complying with their own bylaws and declarations, so they formed this law. My caveat is take it serious. If you violate one of these, you are violating a state law with possible legal implications. It's nothing to be messed with. We're going to monitor this. When people ask for information, if it comes to our attention, there's some other people with me on this, that they're being denied access to what they should be given access to, we'll pursue that a little further. Okay. Anybody heard of DORA? You know what DORA is? It's the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies. We are required to register with them as a homeowners association, which is a not-for-profit organization. I talked to Barney the other day, and he renewed it. So we are now again registered legally. If you fail to register, the homeowners association or board of directors cannot exercise liens against property for non-payment of assessments or homeowners' dues. It locks it up. There's nothing they can do to collect until they get registered and straightened out. There's another interesting thing about DORA. I was licensed under DORA in my previous profession. They will take your complaints and they will record those complaints about the operations of the project or whatever in which you live. And they act very much like the Better Business Bureau. At the end of the year, they will compile those complaints or comments and rate the homeowners association of the project involved. That information is also available to other professionals, appraisers, realtors, bankers, you name it. It could be the kind of information you don't want out, but you should know that that information will be recorded. Okay, smart regs. The issue was raised on the 27th meeting. You can and should download the smart regs program from the city of Boulder. It's 68 pages long. Here's what's critical. It applies only to rental units. If any of you in here own a unit and rent it, then you must comply. But you must comply prior to getting your license renewed. Now there's some problems there. If part of the program calls for additional insulation or reconstruction of exterior walls to meet those requirements, and we reside the building before that happens, you got a problem. See what can happen there? we might have the cart before the horse. But look into